Good morning, good evening, good day. Whenever you're watching this fantastic program, I'm honored today and very excited. I have a master today on the program. I have a vocal teacher extraordinaire, Mr. Seth Riggs, who has taught everybody you could possibly imagine, from Stevie Wonder to Julio Iglesias to Michael Jackson, Madonna, you name it. Everybody in the world comes to him for singing, coaching, and lessons. And he's also brought with him today Wendy.
Yes.
Excellent, fantastic singer herself. So we can learn from Seth Riggs today some of his excellent singing techniques. Seth, thank you very much for being here.
Pleasure to be here.
I really appreciate it. How long have you been teaching now?
35 years, going on 36. Mm-hmm.
I know everybody in Los Angeles, I think, and around the world know of you and know your name and excellent reputation and all.
Thank you very much.
How many, can you tell us about your basic technique, which is called speech level singing?
Speech level, yeah. So many times people think that to sing, they have to reach up for high notes or go down for low notes. Mm-hmm. When actually the pitches are made on a horizontal. They're not made on a vertical up and down. Oh. Now the resonance may be on an up and down, but you'll see people singing, and the rockets red glare, you know, and they don't realize that they don't have to reach. Rockets red glare, they have to, oh gosh, that's high.
That's a great way to visualize it.
Yeah, well when it's speech level, you see, you don't reach. The chords will make the pitches. And so the technique that we teach enables the chords to make the pitches without the teacher, the student having to kill themselves, or the artist having to kill themselves to sing high or sing low.
And the listener doesn't have to kill
That's
themselves.
right, because they'll sit there and they'll see the artist, you know, straining, and they'll sit there going, you know, what they think he's doing, they'll do, you know. How many times have you sat and said, gee, I don't know about him, but my throat's killing me, you know.
How many times have I sung that way?
Well, listen, I used to do that myself years ago.
How did you discover this? How did you come up with this?
Well, I went to New York many years ago, and I started singing in 1937, 38. And after my undergraduate work in Baltimore, I went to New York City. And then I spent 9 or 10 years there, and I went to 13 or 14 different voice teachers, and I had a terrible time trying to help me find someone to get me from my chest into my head voice without a break. And that's really what singing is about. How do you get from where you talk and not drag it up to where your head voice is, which is for the higher pitches.
I see. So this is something different than the falsetto voice you're talking about?
Oh yes, falsetto is disconnected, whereas a head voice is connected. Let me give you an example. If I go up, let's say, to an A flat, I've got a keyboard here. If I were to say, I'm going to go up in a man's head voice, then go to my little boy's falsetto, and then back. Look at the difference. That was disconnected. That's but head voice is that's A flat, but you don't see me working for
So it's the same note, except you're not cracking into the falsetto.
That's right. The chords are not vibrating on half the chord. They just blew open. And that's where a lot of people say, we got to strengthen the falsetto to join it. It'll never happen, friends. I've been through that. It never happens.
So in other words, you're increasing your range and making a smoother sound without breaking into that cracking thing.
You got it. Now you can use falsetto for special effects. You know, for instance, I've got Wendy doing that here. I've got her doing a black gospel sound, which we'll do later on, where she imitates Patti LaBelle.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, Patti will see her in the audience and bring her up on stage and let her sing the high notes, which is not bad for a little white girl from Beverly Hills.
That's true.
But I'm queued up for that eventually.
I see. So you definitely then, I know this because I went to UCLA and enjoyed your class very much.
Thank you.
So I kind of know a little bit of some of the answer to this question, but could you share with our audience maybe a couple of your techniques? Exercises.
Okay, well.
For getting into that head voice.
Getting in the head voice. Okay, well just remember that all voice teachers have pretty much the same idea. They all want to make it as easy as they can. They all want to get from the chest into the head voice. But sometimes the pedagogy, their system of teaching, doesn't trick you into it.
Right.
Now there's one exercise, like what they call a lip bubble, which is like, which is very, very good. And the reason it is because number one, it disorients you. For instance, if I want to go into my head voice and I go B to F sharp, Now, if I were going to falsetto, it would crack off, or chest, then it chokes. But you say, well, why does that work? Because you have a double resistance of this and on the inside, like a schwa. The vowel is an intermediate kind of vowel. So the two together, that's high B natural. What that does is it lets the chord do its work to get you connected. Now let's say that you can't do that you are so used to reaching that you go up like this and you break it a falsetto. Then there's another one I put like a little cry where you go like G-U-H, gug. You say gug, 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 gug. Now it's not a finished sound, but you're connected chest into head voice.
And that's what you want to get.
Yeah, now if I let that go, ga, 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 I'd go to falsetto. But if I pull chest, ga, 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 it's wrong. And if that doesn't work, you've got to like a lip trill, a tongue trill, like, it's another one that's a very easy one. You're in your head voice. Now if that doesn't work, you've got what the old castrati. Did you see that movie Farinelli? That was put to, okay, that's about a castrati. Now the castrati were a whole group of young people, originally young people. The Catholic Church did not allow women to sing in the choir. So they took these young boys and castrated them, paid the families a lot of money usually, castrated them so that they would maintain these big powerful sopranos. It was a brutal practice, but it was done before the end of the 17th century, beginning of the 18th century. And the old Italian masters realized that these boys they started getting some of the man's voice. So they use what they call a little puppet voice, which sounds like this. It thins out the man's voice and thickens up the big powerful soprano. Nay, 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 nay. Now that's pretty ugly, but it connected me. Now what you do is you go from nay, 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 which is connected to nay, 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 to nay, 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 nay. There's the whole thing. So in other words, there's a leader that takes you into that. So there are many different ways of joining the chest and the head voice. And
these are, you use the word kind of trick yourself.
You have to, yes. You have to, because all day long as fellows, we're always down in chest. Hey, you know, over here. You know, cab. We never say, whoa, you know, unless it's a very particular kind of attitude. You're up in San Francisco. But what I'm saying is that usually you've got to find out how to figure to get from your chest into your head voice. And it's the most difficult thing because all day long we're in our chest voice. It's the same thing with a girl. Most of the girls have a break in the middle. Let me give an example. I'm going to ask Wendy to just say na 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 na. Now if you'll notice, she's all in chest. Now she's going to mix it just like I did. Na 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 na. C sharp. Na 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 na. D. Na 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 na. Sounds like chest. Na 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 na. That's the second bridge. Na 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 na. F. Na 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 na. F sharp. Now, you cannot sing R&B unless you can do that. I mean, this girl, not only does she have to be an excellent singer, but for a white girl, she's got a black style. But she can't get close to a black style unless she has the notes with which to accomplish it. I mean, she also has to be a superb teacher, and that's very rare in this day and age. Everyone talks about what it should be, but nobody can do it.
Oh, that's one thing.
You understand?
I do understand. I wanted to ask you about that because I hope you don't mind me bringing this up or saying this, but I do sometimes pick up that there are other vocal teachers that sometimes resist your style of teaching or your ideas. And you were regarded as the top vocal teacher. At the same time, other ones seem maybe threatened or jealous, or I don't know what it is.
No, just let me tell you this. Okay. There are as many different methods as there are voice teachers. And there is no voice teacher that has an argument with me that knows how to connect up. Just to say it is one thing, but you've got to do it. But I always get into arguments with all the so-called opera teachers. And I teach. I've got opera people. I've had 4 winners of the Metropolitan Opera. They're singing at Covent Garden, Salzburg. They're singing at La Scala. There's the Deutsche Oper. As a matter of fact, one of them was up for a Grammy this year. That's Rod Guilford. He's making his debut at the Metropolitan Opera. So I teach both. You just don't. You have the same bridges. Those bridges in the human voice are called passaggi, passages, or break, or you call it whatever you want. But you know, all the schools are turning out people with bachelors and masters and PhDs, and what they do is teach them opera. And say, well, if you sing opera, you can do anything. You can do pop. Nothing could be worse. Or they don't even have a musical department. Yeah, they don't have a musical department. They say, well, you'd have to be a double major. We'll teach you opera, and then you'll be in the theater department. And as a result, you know, they're doing, you know, per la gloria d'Adorarvi, which is wonderful if you know Italian. And it also, how the hell do you know how to get from your chest into your head voice unless it's pitched to a point where you have to face that?
I want to ask you.
So that's why I don't get along with universities.
Although you've taught.
I've taught there and been fired from the best.
Well, I know UCLA.
Oh no, I'm working there because
where else?
Well, I got kicked out of Cal Arts because at the end of the first semester, 19 kids wanted to switch to me. Instead, because I was producing with what they wanted.
You get results.
Well, that's the point. But why didn't they fire the bad teachers and keep me? I didn't care. I was working for Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon at the time. What did I care? I'm a New York pro. You know, I spent 3 years solid on Broadway and 6 years at New York City Opera. I was a member of the original company at Lincoln Center. You know, I have a master's in opera theater. I have an undergraduate at Johns Hopkins University. In other words, I have all that make me acceptable academically, but I knew I needed more. And that's what I found out what to do. And I've trained 35 teachers in 35 teachers in Southern California and Northern California and all over the country who teach this. And since I've got, what, 92 Grammys in my studio alone, there's got to be something going on.
Exactly.
I've had 4 girls that have signed major contracts in just the last 2 months. You've got Tamia, that Quincy Jones just signed with Warner Brothers. There's, who else? A little girl who's 13, just signed a contract, just turned 14. She sings all of Aretha Franklin's music in Aretha's keys. That's Jessica James. She signed with A&M.
Oh, she did.
And then you've got Jordan Hill, who has signed a monster contract with Atlantic, and David Foster, who's a top record producer. So in other words, where there's smoke, there's fire. I have no argument with any voice teacher that is connecting voices, but those who are yelling and abusing chest, and the kids that have breaks, and all the little children, you know, that's terrible. So those are the only people I argue with.
Just from my own personal, now I have you here. It's a great opportunity for me. Because I try to sing myself. Now, head voice, just my own, I want to get in my head. This is when you get up into the area that normally would crack.
Into falsetto,
unless you do exercises to
make it join.
To make it join.
That's right.
And that's where you come in with your trills and
that's with all that sort of stuff.
How also, do you have any suggestions on how one can develop vibrato in their voice?
Well, that's a very difficult thing in a sense. There are a lot of teachers around that will teach you, they'll just have you shake the voice, like, then they'll do two. They'll do that.
Is that changing the air pressure?
No, actually it's just pushing against it. It's sort of nudging your speech level. I have a lot of different ways of doing it. For instance, I'll take a tongue trill like, it's like pump priming. It gives you a climate of release.
It's another one of your tricks to get you into falsetto.
And then very quietly sometimes you can say S-H-E. She, 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 she. Now, a vibrato is where the pitch, let's say, is here, it spins over the top. But a tremolo dips. Whoa, whoa, whoa. If it's too slow, then it's not a vibrato anymore, it's a tremolo. And so that's why if your voice is free and has a good connection in those mixes, you have a better chance of getting a vibrato. But some of the kids are squeezing so hard
and making more of a tremolo
that they go, whoa, 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 yeah. So you've got to be able to stop. Let me show you. Wendy, nay, 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 na, 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 na. Here's a B. Right in the middle of the bridge. Here's a D. flat. See? I mean, that's, you know.
Okay, so you taught me the she, you taught me the...
She, and you know what?
and the trill. You
and
taught me
also,
the trill.
we do that. Sometimes you can go, pa 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 pa, plosive. P-U-H, pa 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 pa. You have to experiment within your own nervous system, you know, to try to feel that little shake, and then you keep nudging it. A lot of times people say, oh, it should be natural. Well, sometimes it is, and sometimes it ain't.
Yeah, sometimes
and if it ain't, you got to figure out how to search through your nervous system to feel that oscillation.
Yeah.
Because a straight, flat sound sounds terrible. Gone, love is never gone. How grim. But if you say gone, you say, whoa, more interest right away.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
Next question.
Yeah.
I'm going to move right along because I want
Please.
this information so do people that are watching.
Okay.
You've talked too about, you know, we've gone through our exercises.
Yeah.
We've developed a little vibrato. We're able now to extend our range by getting into our head voice by doing the tongue trills and all. Now, do you have any advice on how to get the feel?
Okay, now let me just call it like it is.
Okay.
White folks sing by note. Black folks sing by feel. Economically, the white community has always got a little bit more dough to do whatever it is, or to study singing and to know the difference between a whole note and a half note and a quarter note and an eighth, 16th, 32nd, whatever. Not so with black folks. They have to pick it up through church.
Yeah.
And that's where the gospel singing comes in. In other words, you do things as you feel it. You learn to push beat, you learn to pull beats. It's like, did you ever stay up real late at night and hear America the Beautiful with Ray Charles?
Oh yes, of course.
Well, white folks go, oh beautiful for spacious skies, just awful, sounds just terrible. But not Ray. He'll slow down and say, oh beautiful. It's real slow. Then he can say what he wants. For spacious dreams. He always makes the bar lines. For amber. Are you listening, children? For amber waves of gray. He does what he wants to do. Are you listening, children? That's funny. It's not in my text.
Yeah, right.
Are you listening, children? But it's so slow that he can add what he wants to. Now, your ability to push and pull beats and set your internal conductor to know where the bar line is, to know where the harmonic is, to feel the harmonic so you can stretch it and push it, that's what it's all about. And, you know, people get up and say, well, I'm going to go and make a demo, and they have no style. Not only do they not have style, but they don't. But see, you have to have the notes before you can do style.
Right.
What good if you hear a lick and say, oh, all of a sudden that's funny. What are Roberta Peters doing in there? I mean, it sounds like it's operatic, that you have to shift gears to make the pitch. They've got to all sound the same like Wendy does it. See? Then you can make it. Let me give an example of Wendy singing, imitating Patti LaBelle. Now, she's imitating Patti LaBelle. She's going to go up in a heavy mix. Yeah, it's a long time ago. But it's all right. She does the same thing, does it better today. She goes into a mix, and then she lets it flip into falsetto, just like Patti. This is the style. Now that's a mix. Now she goes E flat to D flat, down to a low A flat, now up to high A flat. Now she flips. You see? In other words, that's exactly what Patti does. Now, Patti will, if she sees her in the audience, will very often call her up on stage to do that. And she'll give her the notes. It all happened quite by accident. One time she bought her some flowers and she said, you sing, girl? And when they said, yes, ma'am. Said, you know the music? She says, yes, I do. You know the music I'm singing?
You
yes,
sing
ma'am.
with Patti LaBelle?
Yes.
Wow.
She pulled her, said, put those flowers down. Brought her up on the stage and she took off.
Is that right? Wow, that's congratulations.
Yeah, she's very gracious.
Gracious lady, great lady. But that you can't build style until you have the connected notes.
Right.
So in other words, it's like what comes first, the chicken or egg? Well, I'll tell you, the first comes a blended middle, and then everything else happens.
I see.
But you cannot learn to style for pop, certainly you can't, until you have the notes.
I see. So you want to connect your head and chest first?
So you've got a full instrument.
And
what good is a 5-string guitar with 3 strings on it?
Yeah. and then get some nice vibrato going, so it sounds
And get
sweet.
it going so you can give a good overtone on the
And then you're talking about pushing and pulling.
beats, yeah.
So maybe you go a little fast and you let it pause and you can
That's right.
fill it in like,
That's right.
like Ray Charles. I don't know, does Sinatra do that, do you think? Or
Of course he does.
Yeah.
See, all the people,
are great.
Streisand does it, sure. All the people that are willing to not do it the way it's written, they're the ones that go down in history. The people that do it square, you forget about them. Because you say, heck, I can do that in the shower.
Yeah. I see.
And some people, they don't know how to style. Because they're used to singing. I mean, I was an opera singer, and all I was doing singing Mozart and everything, New York City Opera, everywhere I sang, everything was always on the beat.
Yeah.
But not so. Not so when you're doing pop.
Let's talk about one other thing here
Sure.
real quick too before we run out of time, and I look at my cards and I go, dang.
Okay.
Nodes. A lot of singers develop these nodes, you
That's
know,
right.
and how do you avoid that?
Nodules are vocal warts, and they form right where you go from chest into head voice. They'll notice that if you've ever had nodules or any feeling of hoarseness, it happens 3/4 of the way toward the anterior, toward the front part of the chords. They happen 3/4 of the way up the chords. That's where the shortening process takes place in the transition and the blend from chest to head voice.
Oh, so if you're not doing the head
Doing
voice
it right,
mix, the mix you call
pulling
it,
chest, you get nodules.
because you're straining that.
You're
one
straining,
little
that's where it happens every time. And you have to have them cut off or else rest until they rest off. That could take forever if they're hard. And then you have to relearn and do it right. Next
Yeah.
question.
Okay. Friendly compression. That's a term
Friendly
I've heard
compression.
you use.
Yeah, I think that singing is friendly compression. In other words, if I go up, let's say to my high voice up to a G, I've got to go past again in my head voice. If I say, ah, it's easy. But if I'm going, ah, that's unfriendly.
Yeah.
Because I'm over compressing. So that's why it's just a gimmick. I say
That's
friendly
hostile.
compression. It's unfriendly when it's terrible. Another
Okay.
question?
You talk about, I think this has something to do with style probably.
Okay.
But you talk about the certain pronunciation within the idiom.
That's right. For instance, if you say, I was talking to Natalie Cole. She says, I live for your lav. And I
Lav?
said, yeah, lav. Lav. I said, Natalie, a lav is a British bathroom. She said, oh my gosh, I blew it. I said, don't you remember? Live for your love. Speed write it, L-U-V. Don't say lav, but chest, she was pulling a little bit harder than she should have. And so she missed her mix and did it in chest. So chest distorts your vowels. That's why everybody goes, ha, like the mariachi singers down in Mexico. I have an enormous amount of Latin singers. And they have a tendency, because there's no in Spanish, it's only So already your larynx is hyped.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to get your mix, but it can be done. Look at Placido Domingo. Of course, he's singing opera. But the principle is the same.
I see.
Go ahead.
Singing is aggressive, or you talk about the kind of a street type of a sound.
That's right. In other words, the American public doesn't say, hey, we need you. Come on out here and sing for us. You've got to prove to them that they do it. And it can't be introverted. It's got to be, whoa, there it is. It's aggressive. It's outward.
I see.
Go ahead.
And singing is sustained speech.
Sustained speech. That's right. You just, when somebody loves you all the way,
Yeah.
It's really sustained speech. You don't say, "Arr!" Well, then you say, oh my God, how did Ezio Pinza get in here?
Yeah.
It's no, you have sustained speech. That's what it's all about. It's that way in opera too, the best.
Yes, I love that. So if we're down to like 2 minutes now,
Okay.
so I'd like to kind of recap for myself and the audience.
Sure.
I guess, what would be, if you had to boil it down to maybe one thing you could share that the people out there listening and watching could actually say, oh, I watched this program, I saw Seth Riggs and Wendy, and I've actually picked up something that's going to improve my singing right now as I'm listening. What could you give them? I'm sure you give them a lot, but...
Well, first of all, the only thing I could do is to try to tell them that they cannot go for the old story, well, if you sing opera, you can sing anything. Because nobody turns out, all your opera singers, nobody seems to be able to get through the mix. Even Carmen. Look at Carmen in the death scene. It's like da-da, chest, 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 middle, 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 head voice, 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 down to the middle, ba-da, down to your chest and back up again. You want to go, ooh, 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 ooh. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So don't get sucked in. Anybody who's singing, don't get sucked in. You know that the middle exists, but you got to lean on it. Oh, don't worry, my dear, it'll come. Don't believe it. You either have exercises that service it or else. So don't get caught up unless you don't really want to sing. Some people take lessons but don't want to learn. They just don't want to sing. They're afraid of it.
They want to be a student.
They just want to be a student all their lives. But if you really want it, keep searching. You have a right to expect a return for your money, whatever it is. So don't get caught up in the emotion of it. Oh, that's my aunt. Oh, that's my mother. That's not what the American public's going to say when you go out there and make a fool of yourself.
Yeah. 30 seconds. I heard you at UCLA, which, by the way, I've seen you actually get people to do their head voice within 45 seconds.
Yes, right.
Get past that falsetto cracking area. But 30 seconds, well, probably 15 now that I talked.
Okay.
But you said the head voice is where the money is.
That's right, because just to belt is old time. All the singers that are singing now have all got mix. And if you don't have the mix, you're not going to work. At least you're not in R&B, you're not.
Yeah.
And even you've got to stretch that into crossover. And that means you've got to have a wonderful control. And they're not going to listen to an opera singer. Listen to some of the opera singers trying to sing West Side Story. Tonight, tonight, I want to be just... I mean, it's the most ludicrous thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Bernstein must be rolling over in his grave.
Seth Riggs, thank you very, very much. I have a million more questions to ask you, and I've learned so much.
We'll do it again when we can.
All right, I hope so. One day, thank you very much.
Very
Beautiful
welcome.
voice.
My pleasure.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you later. I don't know where my camera... There we are. Bye.
Look at this. Look at this boy.
Seems absurd, 'cause when